Tonight on True Terror Files Official, we climb above the tree line into 3 abandoned fire lookout towers. Isolation became something far more dangerous. Fire lookouts were built as sanctuaries of visibility, designed to spot distant smoke before it swallowed entire forests. But what happens when the only smoke you fear is your own breath fogging glass while something climbs toward you in the dark? These are 3 documented midnight shifts involving experienced forestry personnel who believed height meant safety. Instead, elevation turned their towers into elevated glass cages suspended above a silent, watching canopy. Our first account comes from Daniel Brooks, a seasonal fire observer assigned to restore an out-of-service tower for survey documentation. The structure stood 80 feet above ground, supported by aging iron legs and accessed by a narrow external ladder. Daniel described the first hours of his shift as calm, almost meditative, surrounded by endless black treetops. 30 miles from the nearest paved road, the isolation felt heavy, but manageable. At 12:47 a.m., Daniel noticed the ground-level security gate hanging partially open despite locking it before dusk. He assumed wind interference until he realized the air was completely still. Moments later, his emergency radio emitted a burst of static sharp enough to make him flinch backward. The interference pulsed rhythmically, almost like controlled breathing through electronic distortion. Daniel attempted to contact base operations, but the signal returned only fractured echoes of his own voice. He checked the backup battery system, confirming all equipment remained technically functional. Then he heard the first metallic vibration travel upward through the iron legs of the tower. It was not random rattling. Was deliberate pressure placed on the external ladder rungs. Daniel froze, listening as a heavy weight tested each step slowly and methodically. No animal native to that region climbs ladders with calculated pacing. He moved toward the trapdoor hatch and secured the internal locking bar with shaking hands. The ladder groaned again, closer now, sending vibrations through the floorboards beneath his boots. When the weight paused, the forest below became unnaturally silent. The scratching began softly against the metal underside of the trapdoor. It shifted from iron to wood, dragging across the hatch with controlled persistence. Daniel later reported that the sound felt investigative rather than frantic. The radio static intensified, overlapping with faint, distorted fragments of human speech. He could not distinguish words, only tone layered beneath interference. After nearly 20 minutes, the vibrations ceased as abruptly as they began. At sunrise, Daniel discovered 4 deep gouges carved into the exterior hatch surface. The marks were evenly spaced and too wide to match local wildlife claws. He declined further overnight assignments at that tower. Our second account involves Emily Harris, a wildfire analyst documenting structural decay in decommissioned lookout stations. Emily approached her assigned tower in early spring during an unusually cold midnight inspection. The tower windows provided a complete panoramic view of dense forest stretching beyond visible horizon lines. She described the cabin as feeling like a glass observatory suspended over black ocean waves of treetops. At 1:15 a.m., her digital radio display flickered before dropping to 0 signal strength. Simultaneously, her thermal scope detected a heat mass circling the tower base. The signature appeared elongated but lacked the limb definition typical of mammals. As she tracked the movement, The heat source disappeared from the display without fading naturally. Seconds later, the ladder below emitted a slow, weighted creak. Emily rushed to the hatch and secured it while documenting audio through her body recorder. The metal legs vibrated with each deliberate step climbing upward. When she looked through the floor crack near the hinge, she saw nothing beneath, yet the ladder continued responding to unseen pressure. The scratching started along the outer wall instead of directly beneath the hatch. Something was circling the narrow catwalk surrounding the glass cabin. Emily caught a reflection in the window behind her that did not match her own posture. The reflection appeared taller, distorted, and slightly delayed in movement. She turned instantly, finding only empty air pressed against the glass. A single heavy thud struck the exterior panel inches from her shoulder. The glass held, but faint condensation formed where no breath should have existed. Emily maintained position until sunrise illuminated the surrounding canopy. Often she documented deep indentations pressed into the ladder rungs. No tracks were found in the soil below the tower. She submitted her report using technical language, omitting personal speculation. She has never returned to conduct midnight surveys alone. Our third account centers on Michael Turner, retired forestry ranger temporarily assisting with infrastructure audits. Michael volunteered for an overnight shift, believing experience eliminated fear. The tower he occupied stood isolated in a valley known for dense fog accumulation after midnight. Shortly after 2 a.m., fog rolled in so thick the canopy disappeared entirely from sight. His radio began emitting intermittent bursts of layered static similar to human whispering, adjusted frequencies repeatedly. Discovering the interference followed him across channels. Then came the unmistakable vibration of something heavy gripping the ladder below. Michael listened carefully, counting each rung impact as it climbed steadily upward. The sound stopped directly beneath the hatch without attempting entry. Instead, slow scraping traveled along the underside of the floor like testing structural weakness. Michael positioned a flashlight toward the hatch seam, expecting to see claws or fingers. No visible object appeared despite clear physical pressure from below. The entire tower swayed slightly, as if weight shifted from one support leg to another. The glass walls amplified every vibration, trapping him inside a transparent prison. Then a distorted voice emerged through the radio speaker using his first name. The tone matched a colleague stationed at headquarters. The real colleague later confirmed he had not transmitted anything at that hour. The voice stretched unnaturally before dissolving into mechanical distortion. Michael chose not to respond, maintaining silence until the vibrations gradually receded. When dawn arrived, fog lifted to reveal deep scoring along one iron support beam. The marks spiraled upward several feet as if something tested grip strength. No footprints surrounded the base of the structure. 3 towers, 3 midnight shifts, and one repeating pattern of calculated ascent. Radios failing without technical malfunction. Thermal anomalies appearing and vanishing without biological explanation. Heavy climbing consistent with deliberate intelligence rather than animal curiosity. Fire lookout towers were built to observe threats from above. They were never designed to defend against threats climbing from below. Height offers visibility, but it also eliminates escape routes. Single ladder becomes both access point and vulnerability. In total isolation, every sound becomes amplified inside a glass cabin. When something circles just beyond reflection range, you have nowhere to hide. Are these encounters evidence of undiscovered predators adapting to human structures? Or do these towers interrupt something ancient moving silently through forest corridors? Why do electronic systems fail precisely during moments of physical approach? Why does wildlife silence precede each recorded event? A forest at midnight operates under rules few people ever witness. Perhaps elevation does not grant safety, only perspective. Here at True Terror Files Official, we examine the stories professionals hesitate to discuss openly. If this investigation unsettled you, consider subscribing to join our growing community of dedicated truth seekers. Turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep exploration into documented unexplained encounters. Share your thoughts below. Natural predator, environmental anomaly, or something entirely unknown? Would you spend a midnight shift alone in an abandoned fire lookout tower? Until next time, stay observant, stay prepared, and remember that sometimes the safest place is not the highest one.